Hello there and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about project risks and we're going to do a little exercise together. Quick backstory. Yesterday I was on a call with one of my coaching clients and he walked me through their list of risks that they had identified for one of their projects. And the list was huge. There were some, I think, 30 risks. It was also a big project, but to me it seemed like they had taken the exercise of risk identification a bit too far. 30 risks seemed like a lot. And some of the risks didn't really look like actual project risks to me. So we got into a discussion about what makes something a project risk. And where do you draw the line between project risks and more general risk or negative outcomes? In other words, where does the responsibility of the project team end? And the discussion with my client was so interesting that I thought, let's record a video. Let us look together at some examples of risks and discuss if they are actually project risks or not. And here's the project we'll use as an example. It's a company relocation project. A company moving their headquarters from one part of town to another. We are the project managers. And we've just had a risk assessment workshop with our team and our key stakeholders, and we brainstormed what the potential risks for this particular project could be. We've come up with 25 risks in total, and next I'm going to show you 6 risks from that list. And I want you to look at each one critically and decide whether you consider this a project risk or not. So here's risk number 1. Items could get lost or misplaced during transit, resulting in operational disruptions. Is that a project risk? What would you say? So clearly, the physical move is the key activity of this project, and we have to make sure it's properly executed. Nothing must get lost during the move. It's our responsibility to ensure that. And even though it's going to be the moving company that will perform the physical move of furniture and equipment, we must take the necessary precautions. We must ensure that boxes are properly labeled, and of course we must hire a skilled, trustworthy moving services provider. So I would say yes, definitely this is a project risk. Here's risk number 2. Setting up network and communication systems in a new location might take longer than expected. So the idea is that we're going to keep our technical infrastructure and simply migrate it, move it to the new building. And there's a technical and schedule risk that the setup may take longer than estimated. And without a functional networking infrastructure, I don't have to tell you, we cannot start work. Is it really a project risk that deserves special attention? I would say yes and no. Yes, because it clearly falls into our circle of responsibility. It's a hugely critical aspect. But we could also argue the other way, saying it's not a project risk, any special risk. And here's why. The infrastructure migration is just a task like any other task on our schedule. And we could argue the risk of a delay is common, is inherent to all tasks. Any task may take longer than expected, whether it's technical, functional, or organizational. And that's something we need to account for by adding enough buffer, or the fancy word is contingency. So why give the network and communication migration special attention by tagging it as a high-risk part? That's a fair point. But in any case, the fact that we've identified this task as particularly critical, that should motivate us to implement additional measures that will help us de-risk this process, to reduce the uncertainty factor that's always at play when you move technical systems to a new environment. So without going into the details, as a project manager, I would ensure that my tech team has the necessary specs of the new facilities, like the room dimensions, the electricity plan, so that they can arrange the cables. They know how to arrange the cables and so on. And regardless of whether you consider this a special project risk or not, the mere fact that the communication systems transfer was brought up as a point in our risk meeting is good, because it triggered a good discussion which forces us to rethink and fine-tune our approach and add additional measures to ensure a safe and timely transfer. Here's risk number 3. New facilities do not entirely meet health and safety standards. I ask you, is that a project risk or not? My answer is no. This is not a project risk. It's not a point we can really address as part of a project. Either the new building meets health and safety standards entirely or it doesn't. But ensuring that we are compliant, that's the responsibility of whoever selected the new facilities. So I would draw the line here. There's a management decision along with experts who choose the new facility. The project's responsibility is to execute the move under the assumption that health and safety requirements have been properly assessed. Here's risk number 4. Increased commute times for employees can lead to dissatisfaction or loss of staff. Is it a project risk or not? I say no. The relocation project takes care of the planning and execution of the physical move, but the team cannot be held responsible for the wider long-term impact that, without any doubt, the company will feel to some degree. There's gonna be some negative impact on productivity, on overall employee satisfaction, and some people are gonna leave. They're gonna look for a new job at another company because they prefer a workplace closer to their home. And this is something that HR needs to manage, but it's not a risk for the project. There's another reason why I would never put such an item on a risk register. It's not really actionable. It's not giving us any steps we can take for its mitigation. In other words, there's not really much we can do to keep people who are unhappy with the long commute. Yeah? It's just their decision. So why put it up as a risk? I like to gather points that we really can do something about, either by being prepared, or by defining a plan B if a certain risk materializes. But in this case, there's nothing we can do to prevent people from leaving. Here's risk number 5. Packing effort may be greater than expected, causing relocation delays. Is this a project risk or not? Yes, of course. If you've ever moved homes, you know that packing along with purging are the most time-consuming steps in a move by far, and to make matters worse, we also tend to underestimate the effort required. I just moved into a new house with my family, and the final days before the move were just the busiest days of my life because stuff kept coming up out of nowhere that we had to sort and throw away and pack. So yes, packing requiring more time and potentially forcing a postponement of the move is definitely a risk, especially when you think that we may have already terminated our existing lease. It's also clear how we can mitigate this risk. We start with purging and packing at the earliest possible time, and we may get additional resources in the form of temp workers who can assist during the packing and purging process. Still there, here's risk number 6. Clients and partners need timely information about the move to maintain business continuity. Is it a risk? A project risk? Absolutely. Unfortunately, here the way it's phrased here is like as a necessity, indicating what needs to be done rather than giving us a potential negative outcome. If we frame it as a risk, it would read like failure to provide timely information about the move to clients and partners may lead to disruptions in operations. And this is probably the second biggest risk in a company relocation project, especially if the company was involved in any kind of physical production with physical shipments from vendors, and those shipments getting lost or not being sent to the new location, causing production bottlenecks and so on, more negative consequences down the line. So that's a huge risk which we need to manage carefully by informing clients and vendors early in advance and making sure they've got our new address on record. That was our little case study on project risks. I hope you found that interesting and helpful. There's quite a bit more to project risk management. I'll cover more in the next videos. And this exercise is really to help you solidify your understanding of what project risks are in practice. And you've seen some real life examples. Finally, let me share with you my simple filter for what makes something a project risk. Project risk is anything that might hinder project execution or cause significant cost decreases. And then of course we have to look closer. What's the likelihood of the risk materializing and what is the potential negative impact? But the starting point in project risk management is always to look at things that could stop us from doing our work. Thanks for watching. I'm Adrian. I've been in project management for over 10 years. Now I'm teaching project management in a very hands-on, very practical way. People like it. They say their confidence is skyrocketing. Well, it's an honor to guide you. And you can learn more about my work at tacticalprojectmanager.com. I wish you all the best and I'll see you around.